Hey, everybody, welcome to the latest episode of Sports Frenzy 2.0. I am the maestro, Kevin Crane.
And I'm the conquistador, Dave Height.
Taping here on the 4th of January 2023. This will hit the morning of the 5th, as always, on Thursday. Kind of a somber start to the episode, of course. Everybody knows by now the situation with Bills safety Damar Hamlin and what happened on Monday Night Football. Dave and I are pretty much, I believe, in agreement that we're not going to dwell on this.
No, it's being over-covered to the point of nausea.
Yeah, as Dave always said, damn Ted Turner to hell for the 24-hour news cycle and the 24-hour sports news cycle. You know, we're not going to sit here and debate how ESPN handled the situation.
How the NFL handled the situation.
At some point in time here, eventually, we'll probably come back into it to discuss the idiots who have taken this opportunity, as they always do.
To be the mouth-breathing morons that they actually are.
But of course, first and foremost, and most importantly, we hope Damar Hamlin comes back from this, can live a normal life. Of course, none of us are doctors here, but long time.
It's going to be a long road.
Long time for him not to have oxygen to his brain. But there are encouraging things we've heard, so maybe next week we'll get into it a little bit more. The one positive thing out of this, which should be emphasized, instead of, like Dave said, the mouth breathers talking about changing the game of football, vaccines being the cause, his toy drive, his humble attempt to try to help out some kids and get some toys to them over the holiday season, he had a $2,500 goal for his GoFundMe page.
Yeah.
For this.
And
he'd actually already beaten that. It was around $3,000 before the game Monday night.
Yeah.
It is now up over $6 million. And we don't want to put a dollar amount on the pride, the soul, the generosity of people out there, but it's good to see at least some people out there making a positive out of this awful situation.
Yeah. Instead of just offering thoughts and prayers, they're doing something important and something good in a show of support.
So that's what we need to do. Emphasize the positive. And I would be shocked if, in our second week, discussing our Clint Eastwood badasses of the week, if this didn't come back up again. But unfortunately, it will probably also come up in the Red Foreman dumbasses of the week. That being said, the game obviously suspended. Bengals leading 7-3. That is trivial. We'll deal with that. You fantasy football managers, anybody who bet on the game, get over it. It'll get resolved.
Deal with it.
Let's talk about
human life is more important.
Let's talk about the other games from week 17. Of course, the Bears. I would have liked a better effort from the Bears. Lions win 41-10. Sinking the Bears to 3-13.
You know, the Bears looked really good, very competitive in the first quarter. You thought, holy crap, they actually have a chance to pull this one off. Until probably near the end, early in the second quarter, Fields got dinged up and they stopped him running. And then everything went downhill from there. They couldn't get out of their own way on offense. The defense was absolutely pathetic and abysmal. I mean, we knew the running defense wasn't any good, but they were almost non-existent.
Yeah, and for the most part, most of the damage was done by the running backs, whether it was running the ball or catching the ball out of the backfield, whether it was Jamal Williams or DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, they
Those
both
two
had
guys
monster
just
days.
just tore the Bears defense to shreds. So now the Lions are set for a big showdown this Sunday night
Yep.
in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers.
So we'll get to that when we do our picks.
And of course, I kind of feel bad. I understand it, but I feel bad for Justin Fields because they're going to sit him for week 18. He will not get a chance to set the single season rushing mark for a quarterback.
No, he will not.
So,
Ugh.
of course, the Bears are looking to protect their investment. I will say one thing here that's a negative. And Dave can agree with me or disagree with me on this. I completely understand protecting your investment. This is what a smart team would do, and this is what the Bears are doing. But we know how the Bears are when it comes to spending money.
Cheap, cheap.
If
cheap,
Justin Fields plays like he did here the last 2/3 of the 2022-23 season into 23-24, and then you get to the point where we're talking about a contract extension, I'm cynical about the Bears front office. I know you are as well.
Oh, hell yeah.
Do you really see them shelling out $200, $250, $300 million to keep Justin Fields?
No, not with Ted Phillips currently there. There's no way in hell.
But of course,
But
Ted
the
Phillips
good
is going
thing,
away.
He's going away, and we're going to get a new president of football operations. So hopefully it's somebody who knows what the hell they're doing, how football actually operates and works, and has the balls to spend some money.
And of course, rumors are that the Bears have approached Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren about taking over that position.
I kind of like that idea because he spent years up with the Vikings, helped kind of build them back up, wasn't afraid of spending money in there, and he was key in getting their new stadium built. That's a big thing the Bears are looking at here coming up in the next few years. So you bring in a guy who's been there and done it well. Did it well. I speak good.
But you're very pretty. You speak good, but you're pretty.
No, this guy has checked all the boxes the Bears are looking for a president.
So, of course, we've got this last game at Soldier Field this coming weekend against the Vikings. Nothing to play for the Bears. So I expect this to be a blowout victory for the Vikings, sitting their starters in the second half.
Yeah.
Awaiting the results of the Eagles game, the 49ers game, the Cowboys game to see how the seeding will play out for them. Of course, then we have to start talking about draft picks. We'll get to that a little bit later because there is a game on our slate for week 18.
That's got major implications for the Bears.
Yeah. So, of course, we got to talk about our secondary teams. Of course, Dave's Dolphins and my Buccaneers. The Buccaneers, I'm telling you, God, I love Tom Brady. God, I love Tom Brady.
You know, he's playing like Tom Brady now. Now that all the personal drama is behind him, you can see he's focused 100% on football.
I am feeling better about this potential first-round playoff matchup with the Cowboys. I think, like Dave said, the Buccaneers needed to be pushed and pushed to the brink. They were playing the Panthers this past Sunday for the NFC South title. The Panthers got up early on them. It looked like it was going to be an absolute
rout
mess. Really black stain on the legacy of Tom Brady, and then he just got it going. He finally figured out, he and Mike Evans, They got
That's
that
it.
connection going again. Mike Evans had over 200 yards receiving, 3 touchdowns. Brady throws for over 400 yards. And it's the old Buccaneers from a couple years ago. Possibly, maybe.
Potentially.
Again,
They
like
looked better. They looked like they finally were coming back together as a team.
and now they will get a semi-bye week. Because I would imagine that if Todd Bowles has any semblance of a brain, which is debatable, he will rest everybody because there is nothing on the line for the Buccaneers. Now, Tom Brady might want to make sure he finishes with winning record
Right.
because he has never, I believe, never finished with a
Below 500.
losing record. So he wants to finish 9-8 instead of 8-9. But in terms of playoff seeding, no impact whatsoever.
No.
So I would think you would try your best if you're Todd Bowles to rest as many players as possible to get them ready for that Dallas game, if that comes
you
to
would
fruition.
think if that's how it goes. Then the Dolphins are just pissing their playoffs away. 6 straight losses, and it's not looking any better coming up after they lost to the Patriots. Teddy Bridgewater breaks and dislocates a pinky on his throwing hand, will not be playing. They're going with the third stringer, and God help us, Mike Glennon was just signed to the practice squad to be their backup. Oh, Lord, God have mercy. This has bye-bye written all over it.
Yeah, I know. The Mike Glennon thing was disturbing, of course, being Bears fans. We all know about how that Mike Glennon thing works out.
Yeah,
and of course, as a Buccaneers fan, he's basically hitting all 3 of our teams now.
yes, he has.
You got to hope Skylar Thompson. He's had a little bit of work here this year because of all the injuries, the concussions with Tua, like you said, the China doll known as Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, at least they shut Tua down. That's probably the smartest move they've made all year.
And again, we've got this pick coming up on our slate here in a few minutes for Week 18. You got the Jets coming into Miami to Hard Rock Stadium. They've got nothing to play for. They were eliminated this past week.
Nothing but pride.
Thanks, Mike White. Actually, it's not his fault. He's not healthy. He was not ready to play. But their only options were Joe Flacco, Methuselah, and the spoiled brat who only cares about sleeping with his mom's girlfriends, Zach Thomas. So, what are they supposed to
Wilson.
do? Zach Thomas is the great Dolphins linebacker.
That's right.
So, but we'll get to that pick later. In other NFL news, it's starting up again. It happened last year. It seems to happen every year. Jim Harbaugh.
The name is out there.
Supposedly, there was some talking this week between
Down
Jim
in
Harbaugh.
Carolina.
A lot of people speculating what is the future for Jim Harbaugh.
Carolina? Does he go back home to Indy?
It's got to be all about, obviously, the best possible fit, but you got to look at quarterback. And right now, all the potential job openings that are out there, even if you want to speculate on who's going to get fired, it's really up in the air because you don't know what your quarterback situation is with most of these teams. Technically, if he wanted his pick of quarterback, he goes to Houston.
Yeah, because they are going to draft a quarterback.
Most likely, unless something bizarre happens this weekend in that game that we will be picking soon.
Yep.
But, of course, we talked about Jim Harbaugh last year. He flirted with the Vikings.
Yeah, considering he was in Minnesota on National Signing Day.
Yes, and Dave and I ripped him apart for that, and somehow he still came out smelling like a rose. Not Rose Bowl.
No.
But even better, got to the Final Four and got to the college football playoff.
Again.
So, I think he could honestly say he's accomplished all he can in college. I mean, he's still got he doesn't have a title, but...
No, but Michigan, they're closer than they're a hell of a lot closer. They're in a championship zip code now, where they weren't even in the same country when he got there.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that in the next segment as we break down the semifinal games. But I think he's going to have the same problem regardless of if he goes back to Michigan or if he goes to the pros. Who's the quarterback? Who's the quarterback? And of course, we mentioned the sad situation with Damar Hamlin, which, again, I don't think warrants the analysis,
No.
the back and forth that it's getting. It was just an unfortunate incident.
It was a freak accident. It happens, unfortunately. It happens in any sport. It can happen in daily life. So there you go.
But we had a couple situations here the past week where we had players, defensive players, blatantly, if not injuring players, taunting injured players, yet no penalties really came of it in one case.
I have serious issues with those particular plays and lack of penalties called.
Now, this past week, week 17, Kayvon Thibodeau, the rookie, pass rusher for the New York Giants, laid out Nick Foles of the Colts and decided it was appropriate to do a snow angel celebration as Nick Foles laid basically writhing on the ground.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Did he not come down on top of Foles with his full weight? Where was the penalty call for that?
Well, not only that, but the taunting.
And the taunting. There should have been two. Nothing. Nothing.
And then, of course, we briefly discussed last week Derwin James, his nasty hit again on a Colts player. Colts receiver Ashton Doolin, nothing for him either. Now, he got a penalty and got taken out of the game.
Yeah, for
but
the targeting,
no suspension, and as we tape tonight, no fine, to my knowledge, has been issued.
Yeah, no, that was absolutely ridiculous.
And so this is where I get mad with the hypocrisy.
Frickin' Packers, known for dirty plays. Two of them picked up a player and slammed him to the turf.
It looked like a WWE in-ring moment.
They didn't even they called him 15 yards for personal foul for unnecessary roughness, but where the hell was the fine and suspension coming out for that?
And I think that tying into the headline of the week is what upsets me the most.
They claim player safety. The hit on the Hamlin thing was a freak accident. All these other incidents were deliberate attempts at hurting another player. And nothing is being done to these guys to make an impact, to take those cheap shots out of the game. Which, we're going to take them out. No, you're not. You're useless.
I agree 100% with Dave. With the ridiculous 24-hour news cycle coverage of a poor kid having a cardiac issue, just happened to be on national TV, just happened to be in the middle of an NFL game, when we have got other examples of blatant injury, violence, intentional hard hits. Last week I referenced, for old school fans, Jack Tatum, Darryl Stingley. Those hits, those instances should be getting more attention. If you want to protect the players, if you really care about player safety, What happened with Damar Hamlin is not one of the things you should be discussing. You should be discussing Tavon Thibodeau. You should be discussing the hit on Ashton Doolin for Derwin James. As Dave said, we should be discussing the tag team 2-on-1 Packers situation. The only way you're going to get through to a lot of these assholes
is sit them down and make them lose money.
I think back, as you mentioned, that Packers situation, I think back always to when
the hit towel.
I think back to when Jim McMahon got thrown on his shoulder by a Packers defenseman
Pretty
to
much
the ground
ruining his career.
again, another WWE type situation.
Yeah. And that particular Packer player had the numbers of Bears players written on his towel as a hit list of who he was going to hurt.
So when you guys start looking at Damar Hamlin's situation and start talking about we should make it flag football, we need to go to extreme measures, change the shoulder pads.
No, and no.
You are looking at the wrong instances. You are looking at the wrong plays, the wrong situations over the past couple weeks. You are not looking at the ones that would really and truly change player safety. But again, Dave and I have to fix everything for everybody else. All right, looking back at the rest of the games for Week 17, Thursday night's game, looking back to December the 29th. Cowboys beat the Titans. Again, with the expanded schedule, this is where things are starting to get a little silly. The Titans didn't play Derrick Henry. They held out Malik Willis, even though they weren't sure if they wanted to go with him or not. Bring in Joshua Dobbs, basically a guy who's bounced around from team to team as a quarterback. They basically, because they had nothing to play for,
they just said, screw it.
Yep. Because they knew, win or lose, they knew this weekend's game with the Jaguars in Jacksonville was going to be the one to decide if they were making the playoffs or if they weren't. So Cowboys beat the Titans basically by the point spread, 14 points, 27-13. We talked about the Bears and the Lions. We talked about the Dolphins, Patriots. I love Boomer this week. Now, I've had my issues with Boomer lately.
He was the asshole dumbass last week.
Yeah, and I still think he's a hypocrite when it comes to player salaries. As long as it's his team, he's okay with players taking less money. But he had the guts. He does his weekly show not only in Chicago,
right,
but he also does one on WEEI up in Boston when he talks about football with the Patriots guys. And he multiple times says he does not like Mac Jones and his douchiness. Of course, we can say this on Sports Frenzy. He got in a little bit of trouble for saying that Mac Jones was a douche.
Yeah, well.
With his body language, the things he says, what he does. Might be a little bit extreme, but again, we're in the Midwest. We don't see a lot of Patriots football now since Tom Brady's gone. So I'll take Boomer's word for it. But the douche won.
Yeah.
So
almost by default.
But now
injury.
They need to win to get in. They have that final playoff slot in the AFC, but they have got a tough task here this weekend to win and get in. We talked about the Panthers, Buccaneers. Of course, Buccaneers coming from behind to beat the Panthers 30-24.
Yep.
The Commanders shit the bed, of course, with
Horribly.
Carson Wentz.
And then, really, you're going to let Deshaun Watson throw for 3 touchdowns? Seriously?
Yeah, Cleveland goes into Washington, beats the Commanders 24-10 in a game Washington needed to win to keep their playoff hopes alive. And now we love Chico. We love Ron Rivera, of course, a member of the greatest team of all time, that 85 Chicago Bears team, but little embarrassed for him. Admitting that
was
he
a pathetic showing.
And admitting that he did not realize that by losing the Commanders were eliminated.
How do you not know How do you not
Don't you have
know?
somebody on your staff to tell you, hey, coach, I know
You should
you're
know-
wrapped up in running the offense and defense.
You should know going into the game what you need. There's no excuse for that.
Yeah, so now the future of Ron Rivera is up in the air. The Commanders are out, so now they're basically going to tank this week. Again, a game that's on our slate coming up here, but they're not playing Tyler Heineke. They're not playing Carson Wentz. They're going with a scrub at quarterback. So Dallas should be able to.
Last I heard, Heineke was going to be in there.
I think he's the backup. I think Wentz is deactivated.
I know Wentz is deactivated.
Right.
I thought they said they were going with.
No.
Oh no! Earlier today they said that they were going with Heineke, and now they changed their minds, going with Howell.
Yeah. So again, this is
seriously.
What
come on.
I'm bringing this back to what we talked about with the Cowboys-Titans game, where it's almost tanking. It's almost getting to NBA levels of tanking, where we don't want people to get hurt. We don't care if the other team gets in the playoffs or not, or what they've got at stake. So the Cowboys technically could probably still sit Dak Prescott, play Cooper Rush, and still win this game. Again, coming up, and there will be spillage.
There will be spillage. Is. So Steelers go into Baltimore, and wow, squeak by the Ravens by a field goal.
They're still alive. They need help. They need the Patriots to go down. They need the Dolphins to go down, and then they could still be in play for that final playoff spot in the AFC. And I think the Ravens, they're in the playoffs. They're a sham. They're like the Vikings in the NFC.
Yep, they are.
That's the team everybody wants to play because everybody's got a shot against them. They're just I think it's a testament to John Harbaugh as a head coach that he's been able to win 10 games with this team.
To get them where they are at this point, yeah.
We talked about the Jets. Mike White comes back, still not fully healthy. The Seattle Seahawks did what they needed to do. Yep, they win 23-6. They need to get
back on track with a game like that.
So now the Seahawks are still alive. They will play Sunday afternoon. They need the Lions to win.
Yep. And then the Vikings. They showed who we thought they were.
Well, you and I knew it. You and I picked the Packers. I didn't think it would be this much of a debacle.
That was just
41-17. The Packers played with the Vikings like a cat with a little, chew toy, just bobbling them around.
And the Packers didn't look that good either.
And I'm telling you, Ravens, Vikings, AFC, NFC, those are the two teams with double-digit win totals that I would want to play.
Yeah.
Because they're not that good. They're just not. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. We're going to end segment 1 so we can have a clean break.
Yep, and then we will get to our picks.
Week 18, we have got 10 games for you. A lot of them turned out to be worthless, but
we still got to pick some.
There's some intrigue. There is some intrigue. So we will have those for you when we get back, as well as our look at the end of the bowl season with the college football national championship game coming up this Monday. Dave and I will be right back.
This episode of Sports Frenzy 2.0 is brought to you by the Bills Mafia Marital Aid Company, because when you are down and out, we'll bring you back up and in the game. Sports Frenzy 2.0 on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Apple, Overcast, Castbox, and Stitcher. Happy 2023, you sports frenzians out there. It's January 4th here recording, dropping Thursday the 5th. I'm the Conquistador, Dave Height.
And I'm the Maestro, Kevin Crane.
And we have spillage, as we usually do on the NFL, on Spotify, Anchor, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Apple, Amazon, Audible, Overcast, Castbox, and
Stitcher! Check out the Facebook page. Although the picks are winding down, we will still be posting our playoff NFL picks. And we're just about a month and a half away from the start of the Cup Series, NASCAR Cup Series at Daytona mid-February. So those picks, of course, will also appear on our Facebook page. But for now, we are still battling it out for the Penafrenzy. Week 18. Mr. Height, the Conquistador, is now the king of the hill. He is the man, the myth, the legend.
One game up on you as we tape for the Rick Shaggy Brooks Memorial Cup.
Yeah, and we've got some differences here.
We do.
Over the games we've got here. Of course, the NCAA Championship game we'll get to in a little bit. But for now, 10 games for the final week of the NFL season.
Yep. So we will be starting off, of course, Saturday and Sunday football.
Yeah, we set this whole slate up before the NFL decided to announce which games were Saturday, which games were Sunday. So these aren't necessarily...
Check your local listings.
Yeah, these aren't in order.
No, they're not. Big game implications. Patriots at the Bills. This is a chance for the Patriots to sneak into the playoffs.
And a chance for the Bills to heal.
Yep.
I think it's good that they are going to play at home on their home field now.
Yep, they've got some distance. News is positive. He's doing a little better. It's still not anywhere near out of the woods, Mr. Hamlin. But the Bills need this. They need the healing that a win can bring and the chance to have that number one seed.
And, of course, that's going to be the other thing down the road that we're going to have to deal with, the NFL's going to have to deal with, is if the Bills win, the Bengals win, we'll get to that in a second, the Chiefs win in their game, that postponed Monday night game that we were just talking about becomes huge.
It does.
And rumors are possibly, maybe, we push the entire season back a week. Let the Bengals finish that game off in a standalone.
Week 19.
So we shall see. But for now, Patriots at the Bills. The Patriots need to win to clinch the final AFC playoff slot.
Yep. And we have 6 of our 8 panelists in. Right now, Bill is on Patriot Island with the rest of us taking the Bills.
Yeah, I've got to believe the Bills at home will rise up. They're just a better team.
They are.
I know emotionally they're a wreck. Obvious. They're just the better team. And
they are, hands down.
I think even if they're rattled, even if they can't really play emotionally at 100%, they're still better than the douchebag, Mac Jones. No, I'm sorry. Bill Belichick, to me, has done an amazing job again to have this team.
With this team where they're
at 8-8 right now?
Yeah.
And I'm not sold on Mac Jones. Ramondre Stevenson has been the saving grace at running back. He is a stud. But I think this is, again, a testament to Bill Belichick's coaching ability to have this team at 8-8. Now, Bill Belichick, the coach, is great. Bill Belichick, the GM,
not looking
you can
so
blame
good right
him
now.
for the fact that this team isn't better than 8-8.
Yeah, exactly. All right, moving on. Ravens at the Bengals.
Potentially for the AFC North crown.
Yep.
Again, with the suspended game, we don't know for sure.
Yeah, but come on, the Bengals are a much better team than the smoke and mirrors Ravens that we just talked about the last segment. So Bengals across the board for the 6 so far. All right.
Now we move to the Sunday night game. This is the game that got flexed to Sunday night. This will be the final game.
Because you have to stroke Aaron Rodgers' ego even more.
Yeah, you know how much we love Aaron Rodgers here on Sports Frenzy. And, of course, he had to get his 2 cents in on the whole Damar Hamlin situation. Well, again, we're laying off of that for now. For now. But as much as God help me for saying it, I'm rooting for the Lions. I can't see it happening.
most everybody is rooting for the Lions, but it's at Lambeau. The Lions struggle outside. They struggle, especially when it's cold, and it's going to be at night in Lambeau in the cold.
Yep. Probably, guesstimate in the 20s, high teens, probably. But there are a couple who think the Lions will come through. The elder group of our panelists.
Yes, the two retirees, the elder statesman and the big blue W, are going with the Lions, and I hope they're right.
I'd be fine with
I would
losing this one.
love it if they were right, but the rest of us are going with the Packers.
Yeah, and again, I think the NFL is being a little sneaky here, where they are saying it's win and you're in. That's for the Packers.
Right.
The Lions could potentially be playing for nothing, because if the Seahawks win earlier, I believe what I have read, the Seahawks will get in even if Detroit wins.
Interesting.
So, I am no way, shape, or form a football Nostradamus, but I play him on a podcast. So,
there we go.
Now, I put this one on the slate because this is the polar opposite of a game that has any meaning for the playoffs. This is a game that has implications
to go to the depths of hell
for the number one pick in the draft next year. Because the Bears, of course, are involved in this.
Yep.
But you take two of the 5 worst teams in the NFL, and they're going to fight it out. The Texans at the Colts. The Texans right now, number 1 in terms of draft slot for next year. The Colts, I believe, 5th. They could move up a slot or 2.
Potentially.
If they lose.
Yep. If the Texans win, the Bears would have the number 1 overall pick.
And then, of course, assuming they lose to the Vikings.
Without Justin Fields, not going to happen.
But you and I are going different on this one. Now, the panel, the 6 that we've got so far are split. We're split 3-3.
Yep. I, along with the elder statesman and the big blue W, believe the Texans can beat the Colts in Indianapolis.
I've got Doug and Aaron on my side. I don't think it's so much. I think the Texans are the better team. Don't get me wrong. I think the Texans are the better team. And if this had been played 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have taken the Texans. But this is going to be a matter of pride for Jeff Saturday, is what I'm thinking.
The Colts have no pride left. If there was any pride shown, it would have showed up last week.
But I know, and Lovie Smith, I believe, wants to win. But again, is the front office going to tell him, you better not goddamn lose us the number 1 pick to your former team,
but
the Chicago Bears?
I will take Lovie out coaching Saturday.
Of course, no,
Saturday.
I'm not
Saturday that. Saturday is going to do something stupid that is going to cost the Colts the game.
I completely agree with the sentiment that Lovie Smith is the better coach. Don't get me wrong. It's tankathon on both sides. It's just who is going to figure out a way
to tank better.
To tank better, yes. And I still think Saturday is.
He is not.
Lovie is probably being told, and I'm just speculating.
Lose the game.
If you want to be a coach next year for this team, lose the goddamn game. I know that a complete counterintuitive
Do I really
argument.
Want this trash team again?
Saturday,
even with the number 1 pick.
But again, Saturday's probably already hearing the Harbaugh rumors. He knows he's probably got no shot or little shot at coming back.
Any shot he had was destroyed over the last couple of weeks.
And I'll tell you in the end why I'm taking the Colts, because I want to say fuck Kayvon Thibodeau. Because Saturday came out after that whole snow angel thing we discussed earlier. And Saturday actually said it was a Bush League move. It was stupid. It was immature. And Kayvon Thibodeau, who I never liked when he got drafted.
I heard Saturday, who is he?
Yeah, well, he's a borderline Hall of Famer, Kayvon. Who the fuck are you?
A punk-ass little bitch.
You can argue all you want about Saturday's ability as a head coach. You can't argue with the fact the man was
so you're going with your heart on this one.
Yeah, and it usually bites me in the ass. But yeah, Kayvon Thibodeau.
He's a punk.
When he came out in the draft and he was a top 10 pick for the Giants, and I heard his most important concern was increasing his brand exposure. I was like, I hate this motherfucker. I hate him.
Yep, he's
I would never want him on my
arrogant
team.
Ass who's only looking out for number one.
Yep. All right, Dave, it's your team. You do it.
Jets go into Miami to play the Dolphins. The Dolphins are in a free fall. The Jets suck. I don't see the Dolphins with their third string quarterback pulling this one off. God help me, I'm going with Doug and taking the Jets.
Yeah, the other four of us are taking the Dolphins. Of the 8 panelists, we've got 6 picks in. Even though we're looking at Skylar Thompson as a starting quarterback, like I said earlier, he's got a little bit of experience here because you got the 2 China dolls on the depth chart ahead of him. But everybody else will play.
Yeah, but they're not.
And the Jets' defense is not as good as everybody says it is. They have sucked me in the last 2 or 3 weeks. No way in hell do I trust the Jets ever again this year.
I do not trust my Dolphins to do anything. So there you go.
I'm sorry. I have more faith. I think the Dolphins get into the playoffs.
If they do,
the Patriots lose to the Bills. The Dolphins win.
I will give the game back to you, but I do not have the faith.
All right. And Mike White is still dinged up. Now, the Giants at the Eagles, when I put this on the slate again, wasn't sure what the situation was going to be. Of course, the Giants are locked in pretty much in the playoffs as a wild card. The Eagles have to play to keep that first round bye and home field throughout the playoffs.
You don't want to lose it to the Cowboys.
But in what should be an easy pick, one person has decided to go against common sense.
Yep, the elder statesman is going with the Giants, while the rest of sanity goes with the Eagles. Maybe he's expecting them to just rest everybody. I don't know.
The Browns going into Pittsburgh to play the Steelers. Of course, we talked about the Steelers getting by the Ravens, keeping their playoff hopes alive. Now, according to Dave, if you go by his picks, and of course he is number 1 right now, the Steelers, if they win this game, get into the playoffs. If the Patriots lose to the Bills, if the Dolphins lose to the Jets, Dave is going nuclear here.
Ifs and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a
Dave
Merry
is
Christmas.
basically saying the Patriots are going to back into the playoffs because
I'm taking the Browns.
You're going with the massage pervert.
I'm going with the massage pervert. He's looking a little better, and the Steelers do not look like they have anything. I'm sorry. Even against the hapless Ravens.
At home, though, in Pittsburgh?
I don't like the Steelers right now.
Well, Sam's with you. So is Doug. Split 3-3. I'm going with the Steelers. So is Bill. And, of course, so is Aaron.
Yep.
Because I think Aaron and I, like I mentioned off mic, I think Aaron and I have the exact same picks this go-round.
There we go.
Another game that has implications, but...
Yeah, Rams going up to Seattle to play the Seahawks.
The Seahawks, poor Seahawks, have to play in the mid-afternoon slot. They have to kind of try to win.
They do.
But really, it's going to take a miracle for them to get into the playoffs. They need the Lions to go into Lambeau and beat the Packers.
Yep. So we will see. But the Rams, outside of that 151-point outburst, just do not look like there's anything there.
A lot of people talking about how they like Baker Mayfield, though, to
The
come in next
offense
year.
is a little better, but the defense is
How about that
just
Cam
not
Akers?
there. That bastard. They don't use him, 75% of the season until I
They
drop him off my
deactivate
team.
him for
Yeah,
a
they
couple weeks.
deactivate him. I let him go. Then, I guess we'll bring him back on and start giving him the
And then he
ball.
starts looking like the guy because I was with you. You and I both thought he was going to be a stud this year. And he was in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. Ugh.
That being said, everybody's taking the Seahawks except for Doug. He thinks the Rams will win.
There we go.
Cowboys at Commanders. We've already talked about the fact that the Commanders look like they're mailing it in.
Yep, but lo and behold, the Big Blue W is going with the Commanders.
He probably made this pick before the choice to go
announcement.
with the third string
Yeah.
quarterback. Now, finally, this was the last game we had on the slate. I thought this would be the Sunday night game. It's actually going to be a Saturday night game to decide the AFC South. We talked about the Titans, how they rested players last week against the Cowboys.
Yep.
They're setting this up for the Jacksonville showdown, Titans at Jaguars.
And the Jaguars right now are playing really well. Peterson has got that team looking pretty good. At home, I have to take the Jags.
Yeah, and the point spread kind of surprises me. Almost a touchdown favorite.
Yeah.
Now, Derrick Henry should be back for this game, and that's what the Titans are going to have to do.
He's rusty.
Derrick Henry is going to have to carry the ball at least 30 to 35 times in this game.
Is he
Joshua Dobbs will be the starter.
Is he going to be in shape enough after that long layoff?
This is the gamble these coaches take. Vrabel decides, give him a week off. They would say probably fresh legs. Now, Joshua Dobbs looked good enough last week where they're going to put him as a starter and let Malik Willis, the rookie, sit again, which I think is the right call because Dobbs did look better. Malik Willis just is not ready for prime time yet.
He's not.
But I agree with you completely. Jaguars are too good right now, on a roll. Everybody of the 6 picks we've got in except for Doug. Doug goes with the Titans. Titans are going to have to play a perfect game to win this.
They are. And I don't know if their offense can do it.
Yep. All right, looking back at last week's as we shift to the NCAA. And
Bowl
yes, we remembered
baby.
This week. We remembered to do our NFL picks.
Yes. Oops.
So no bonus segment this week. Going back through now there were some big bowl games. Obviously, the national semifinals. TCU beats Michigan 51-45. I blame number one, Michigan's quarterback J.J. McCarthy throwing 2 pick sixes. That is unforgivable.
You can't do
that. Team was playing from behind the whole game, the Michigan Wolverines.
Yeah.
Because McCarthy, he made a couple plays, but not enough to offset his mistakes.
Yeah. And that was just bad. They just were bad passes, and TCU took advantage of them. Maybe they suckered him into it. That first one came out of nowhere and grabbed it.
And I guarantee if you had told Jim Harbaugh before the game, Dr. Fate appears from the future. Check out the weekend edition, by the way, for a review of Black Adam. Dr. Fate appears from the future and says, you will score 45 points against TCU. But I'm not telling you anything else. Harbaugh would have probably taken it. Harbaugh would have probably said, all right, we're okay with that. We're not going to change anything.
Oof.
Not realizing he was going to give up 51.
Yep. And, that's a TCU game.
They got to outscore their opponent.
They will play the track meet.
They have got to outscore their opponent. Yep.
And where was that vaunted Michigan defense?
Yeah. Yep.
TCU took full advantage of them.
Yep. So that sets up a showdown between the Horned Frogs and the Bulldogs.
Yep. Boy, Georgia had to come back on Ohio State and got lucky with that last-second field goal that went left.
Yep. Georgia
Oof.
beats Ohio State 42-41.
And
now
again, where was the Georgia defense?
Yes, very good point. The two arguably best big school defenses in the NCAA, Michigan and Georgia, did not show up. One got away with it, one didn't. But again, Michigan's defense isn't responsible for those two pick sixes.
No, they're not.
Here's a point I want to bring up, tying back in to our last segment, talking about Kayvon Thibodeau and Derwin James and the violent hits and the taunting. The game possibly turned when Marvin Harrison Jr. was knocked out of the game for Ohio State on a violent hit.
That was brutal.
In the end zone. Now they pulled the targeting off the table. And I have to admit, I do like the fact that college will say, it's targeting, we'll look at it.
We'll look at it and review it.
Yeah. And they usually do the right thing and either keep it or rescind it.
Yeah. And this one, I think rescinding it was the right move.
But it was I agree, but it was the turning point because it knocked their number one receiver out for the game. Now, C.J. Stroud, we talked about this off mic, probably had his best game that we've seen.
Yeah, I doubted him going into this. I didn't know that he could do anything, but he actually stepped it up.
Yep. So, we'll get to our pick here in a few minutes. Number 3, TCU, and number 1, Georgia. Looking back at some of the bigger bowls from the past week, yes, Notre Dame won the Gator Bowl. Yay, yay, yay. Taylor Buckner proved me wrong. Yeah, he showed up.
But come on. Throws 2 pick sixes. One of them 100-yard return. Come on. I hated that play. Your running game was going strong. What the hell are you doing passing from the 7-yard line when South Carolina could not stop the running game?
Now, one of the weird things I've been doing here over the last week with college football, started to think about, not next year, but the year after will be the 12-team playoff. So I've been looking at the rankings and looking at some of the teams who performed very well, or at least won some of these big bowl games. So Notre Dame would not have been.
No, they were not in the top 12.
Tulane, very impressive, coming back, beating USC in the Cotton Bowl.
In the closing minutes.
46-45, but ranked 14th. Would not have made it. Now, these are AP rankings, but still, I don't think the college football playoff rankings were much different.
No.
So I think what you're going to see, honestly, what the criteria is going to be for the 12-team playoff, but I think you would have seen a team like Tulane sneak into the top 12 before this. Because they can't just put all SEC, Big 10, Big 12 teams in.
No, you can't. You can't do that.
I think Notre Dame had too many losses. I think Tulane could have snuck into the top 12. So congrats to Tulane. But again, you get what you get with USC. Caleb Williams has got one more year, the Heisman Trophy winner. But by all accounts, teams are drooling over him for the next draft.
Yeah.
And you could see Tankathon next year.
Yeah, that's
in the NFL
out there.
Just for somebody to get, because I'm hearing comparisons to one Patrick Mahomes.
Potentially, we'll see.
Rose Bowl, Dave and I on Nittany Lions Island. Always better than being on Cock Island. Dave and I were the only ones on the panel to figure out that
Penn State was better than Utah.
And James Franklin is very good coaching bowl games, although he has not been able to get into the Final Four.
No.
Would have been interesting. They would have been in the top 12.
At number 9, as was Utah. This would have been one of those playoff games.
Yep. Or these teams would have been in the playoffs.
Yeah.
The matchup might not have occurred in the first round, but just kind of thing I was thinking about.
Yep.
Bad day for Purdue on Monday, January the 2nd. Not only
the biggest blowout.
We were wondering, because Mississippi, I watched some of the games Monday night with the Conquistador in Mississippi. She got notified that bad day for Purdue.
Yeah,
and we didn't know
day.
What are they talking about. And I said probably the bowl game, because I don't think that was going very well. And of course, it ends up being 63-7. LSU beats Purdue. But it turns out that it was both.
It was a double blow for
because
Purdue.
Rutgers beat Purdue and knocked them next week.
The second time in 2 years, Rutgers knocks out number 1 ranked undefeated Purdue.
So bad 2023 start for Purdue.
Muy mal.
All right.
Bad.
So let's look at the national championship game.
Dun, 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 dun.
We talked about number 3 TCU, number 1 Georgia. Point spread is getting close to 2 touchdowns. And I can't go against Georgia. I don't like Stetson Bennett. Let me put this out there. I'm one of the few people out there. I know he won the national championship last year, but I think they win in spite of him, not because of him. They won
the national championship because of that defense last year, putting him in a good position. He got lucky with the number 1 receiver going down for Ohio State. Georgia's defense showed they are susceptible. TCU has shown they can pick apart a good defense. If it goes high scoring, I'm taking TCU because that's their game.
Yeah, and we're split. Yep. Out of the 6 of the 8 panelists here on Sports Frenzy have got their picks in right now.
The Big Blue W, and Doug are getting horny, people. Going with the Horned Frogs.
Just don't get horny on Cock Island with me. If you don't know about that joke, check out last week's picks. I am going with the favorite. I am going with the tried, the true Georgia. So is Sam. So is Aaron. So there you go, kids. I do want to bring up one final tidbit here. We got a couple minutes left because I know this will not make Dave happy, as it does not make me happy.
There's not much that does.
But this is one of those scuzzbags who's potentially got a seat on the Sports Frenzy plane of doom. And news just broke today.
This pissed me off if it's the one you're going to talk about.
Less than a month after being hired as the offensive coordinator of UNLV, the deceitful, disgusting man,
piece of human refuse,
Bobby Petrino, bails to go to be the offensive coordinator for the vastly overrated, panicking Texas A&M program led by Jimbo Fisher.
The vastly overrated Jimbo Fisher.
How can you trust anybody who does this? We're not talking about a head coach who takes a maybe better job after 2 or 3 years, like a Lane Kiffin.
Right.
Bobby Petrino committed to UNLV less than a month ago. And now he says, I'm leaving because there's a better job out there.
Not cool at all.
If any of us did that in the real world, in the regular world, we would be looked upon. We would never be able to leave again. If we left that other job, the higher paying, better job, you better not leave that one.
You better be
there for life, because people are going to look at you and how you left the other one.
Nope. And this guy has trust issues to begin with.
Yep. All right, kids. Segment 3 coming up. Miscellaneous tidbits, moments of silence, and, of course, a whole
homework done for NASCAR Clash.
Whole slew of dumbasses, too. We're going to need a lot of time for those. We'll be right back. Feeling mildly fatigued? Need a day off, even if you just took one a few days ago? Make $30 million a year, but just don't want to work for it? You need to join the NBA Load Management Club right now. When they're not napping or texting, guest lecturers Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving will describe foolproof ways to earn tens of thousands of dollars by not doing anything. Sports Frenzy 2.0, available on Spotify, Google, Radio Public, Pocket Casts, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, is currently negotiating with LeBron James to bring his popular How to Make the Hall of Fame Without Really Trying webinar live and in person to the Load Management Club. Thanks again to Sports Frenzy 2.0 and all you apathetic fans out there for making us a success. All right, everybody, time to wrap it up. Segment 3 here, Sports Frenzy 2.0, the first episode of 2023. He's a conquistador, Dave Hine.
He's the maestro, Kevin Crane.
Taping here on January the 4th of the new year. This will hit the morning of the 5th. Time to piece together all the little miscellaneous tidbits that are not related to football in the world of sports. And then, of course, plenty of time for Red Foreman's dumbasses of the week. But Dave had a homework assignment. We got to talk a little bit of NASCAR. Dave is going to break down, as only he can, the stages, the requirements, the rules for the upcoming clash at the Coliseum. Sibilance.
I got to get my vocal cords warmed up for this one, kids.
Which means he's
I'm
taking a
preparing
sip
to
of beer.
teach a doctorate class in confusion.
The only time I give him this assignment is when the rules for an all-star race or a clash are so ridiculous and stupid that only Dave can break it down for us.
All right. First off, they expanded the field for the clash. Up 4 cars. It was 23 last year. Now they're going to allow 27 in. Eligibility requirements, G. All 2023 charter teams, either owners or drivers associated, get in automatically. That means 23 cars are automatically in, which leave 4 spots up for grabs. How do they get there? Let me tell you. All right, Saturday, February 4th, they are going to have practice to begin with. The field is going to be split into 3 groups. Each group will get 3 sessions to get their cars dialed in. Qualifying will be Saturday, single round, single car, to set the field for the 4 heat races. So the drivers will each get 3 laps, a warm-up lap and 2 timed laps. The order of qualifying reverse points from how they finished in 2022. So the lowest will go first. So Mr. Logano will be rolling out last. So once that rolls out, the top 23 are going to make it. The 4 fastest open teams will transfer in. Now, the heat races, the lineups, there's 4 heat races at 25 laps, green flag only count in these. So, heat 1 pole position will be the fastest qualifier. Heat 2 pole will be the second fastest. Heat 3 the third. Heat 4 the pole fourth. And they'll fill out based on qualifying order. So, once the heats are in, the top 5 finishers in each heat advance to the final. So there you have 20 right off the bat. So the Heat 1 winner will be on the pole, Heat 2 winner will be outside pole, and so on throughout the rest. Then you got 2 last chance qualifiers, 2 50-lap dashes. The top 3 finisher from each will advance to the main. So The first qualifier will be whoever finished 6 through 10 in heats 1 and 3. The qualifier 2, whoever finished 6 through 10 in heats 2 and 4. So once you get those top 3, now you're at 26. Who gets 27th? The person who missed, who finished highest in points from 2022, rounds out the field, guaranteeing Joey Logano would be in if he failed to make it any other way. There you go.
Kudos to Professor Height.
It's a convoluted mess.
Couldn't have done it better. That's why I always assign it to him, because he does this stuff much better than I could. But we're not done with Professor Height yet.
No, NASCAR screwed up their damn Rose Bowl parade float. How, could you ask? You had the 3, the 43, and the 24. Yeah, you got 2 7-time champs and a 3-time champ. You missed the float by not putting on the 48. Then you would have had 3 7-time champs there. Makes much more sense. But no, you got to kiss Jeff Gordon's ass since he's still high up at Hendrick.
I agree completely with the professor. There's no way that doesn't make any sense. Now, personally, for me, I would have preferred Dale Earnhardt, Tony Stewart, and Richard Petty, but that's just me. I understand your logic. God forbid it makes sense. So,
there you go.
One final NASCAR tidbit before we move on. You guys might not know the name, but those of us like Dave and I who watch NASCAR year after year after year, especially the Cup Series, Vince Welch will not be returning to Fox Sports for 2023.
Wow.
Yeah, Vince Welch, one of the preeminent guys in the pits. So, always kind of sad. You know, too bad we can't find...
Why can't we get rid of Rutledge? My God.
I still think he's in the closet. Good
Lord.
What does NBC think they're doing with him? He's not appealing to any demographic out there. The true diehard NASCAR fans think he's a joke.
Yeah, he is a joke.
All right, NBA news.
He's got something on somebody up there in production.
Yeah, he probably does. That and a jar of Vaseline. Our kind of like our bi-weekly look at the NBA. We tend to skip the NBA every other week just because, number one, we hate it. But number two, because there's not that much worth talking about. But this week...
Not until the playoffs kick in.
This week, there are a couple things. One thing I know Dave is fired up about. Number one, Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell. Unbelievable performance.
Puts up one for the ages. Scoring 71 points in a comeback win against the Bulls. Plus, he had 11 assists.
Most since Kobe Bryant put up 81 points. But there's always got to be a but.
But, gee, lo and behold, isn't it convenient that the day after that performance, Cleveland gets hit for the random drug screening for PEDs? And
we are seeing a lot of scoring in the NBA.
And at least Mitchell had a sense of humor about it when he tweeted about it.
Yeah, we are seeing a lot of scoring in the NBA this year, especially on an individual basis. I think Giannis here recently went over 50 again.
Yep.
We talked about Luka Doncic and the run he was on a couple weeks ago.
They don't play defense.
Yeah, it's not PEDs, kids.
No, it's the lack of defense. They don't care. They don't know how to play defense.
Unfortunately, as much as Dave and I love to root against LeBron James and the Lakers, there is another NBA evil empire out there that we have been keeping our eye on over the last 3 or 4 years. And unfortunately, they are starting to rise. And it will destroy this season if they get to the finals. That would be the new, well, I call them the New Jersey Nets. They're the Brooklyn Nets.
The Brooklyn Nets
are on a 12-game win streak. I refer back to them when they had Dr. J. Yeah. Back in better times. My favorite player of all time. But now with, the evil Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, who, great player, Hall of Fame player, but I have my issues with him. But again, another situation where they got the coach fired. Now all of a sudden, Jacques Vaughn, who has gone from team to team to team, now all of a sudden they love him. And they'll play for him. So now 12-game win streak, they are on the verge after the Celtics' embarrassing loss last night to the OKC Thunder. The Nets can take over the number 1 slot in the East.
That's just not right on any level.
We were scared about this. We were afraid of this
when they put this team together at some point.
They shifted James Harden in and out. They bring in Ben Simmons now, again, because they like Jacques Vaughn. You like me. You really, really like me. You'll play for me.
That they'll play for. Ugh, frustrating.
35-minute delay fixing a rim in the Celtics-Nuggets New Year's night game.
How does it take that long to fix this?
There's a joke going around about how many NBA maintenance people does it take
to fix a rim?
Yeah.
Were they already in the bag for New Year's?
I was going to say it's a real rim job.
They found it hard to find the hole.
We'll go back to NASCAR, get Rutledge Wood. And finally, my Orlando Magic. What kind of bullshit is this? Just when they were getting on a roll, now they're starting to stumble again. They get in a fight with one of the only teams worse than them, the Detroit Pistons. Somehow, the Pistons only get 2 players suspended. The Magic have 9 players suspended.
How the hell did they pull that off?
So they have to stagger the suspensions
so they can field a team?
Right.
My God.
You know why? My conspiracy theory of the week? You know who's in charge of player discipline for the NBA, don't you? That would be one Joe Dumars.
Oh, Mr. Detroit.
So.
There you go.
Thanks for destroying the momentum of my Orlando Magic, Mr. Dumars, in favor of your awful Pistons.
Mr. Damasars?
Not going that far. I didn't want to go that far. Of course, thoughts and prayers go out to one of the greatest in tennis, Martina Navratilova.
Oh, God, this was horrible news.
Stage 1 throat and breast cancer. Of course, stage 1. I'm not trying to simplify it, but better than stage 4. Hopefully she can overcome this and get through this.
Hopefully, thoughts and prayers to her for a recovery.
Now we get into some ugly stuff. Before we get to our moments of silence and our dumbasses, Dave and I talk about this too much on this podcast because it happens too much in the world of sports. This is a 2-part discussion here because, number one, the head of UFC, Dana White, is getting vilified all over social media because on New Year's Eve in Mexico, he is caught on video slapping his wife, Anne.
A retaliatory strike after she smacked him first.
You can have your discussions about this. I find some people to be really sanctimonious about this. One, Kevin Ioli, who covers combat sports for Yahoo, I thought his coverage of this, I read the article, as I first saw the story here recently within the last day or two. He does a piss poor job of covering this. He is a snowflake. All he wants to do is rake Dana White over the coals and be
A holier than thou.
Mr. Virtue signaling, holier than thou. We all know domestic violence is awful. You don't have to tell us that. This is part of the problem I have going back to the beginning of the show with the Damar Hamlin situation. We know it's bad. We know it's tragic. We don't need the 24-hour news cycle. We don't need third-tier hacks like Kevin Iole telling us that domestic violence is bad.
We know that.
Kevin White should not have slapped his wife,
Dana White.
Kevin White. See, the Bears pick haunts me to this day. The old Bears pick haunts me to this day.
Dana White owned it. He goes, yes, I know I said a man never, ever should hit a woman, and I screwed up. He owns it. Did he screw up? Yes. But he owned it at least, where most everybody else would not.
And I just, again, and I know Dave has been big on this, and I applaud him for this. He always points this out, and I agree with him completely. She hit him first. Where is her penalty? Where is the repercussions, the ramifications for her for hitting him first? Why is it always the woman can do it, the man can't?
It's
hit
not
back?
acceptable.
How about we don't
period.
How about we don't hit each other at all? How about that?
And she took full responsibility as well.
Now this ties into a story that broke recently within the last day or two about the United States men's national team soccer coach, Greg Berhalter, claiming that somebody was out to get him, leaked a story from 1991.
Good Lord, that's a long time ago.
Where he supposedly kicked his at-the-time girlfriend after they'd been out at a bar. No charges filed, no police involved. But yet somehow somebody contacted the United States Soccer Federation or whatever group it is.
Oh, gee, what player recently got cut?
Came out later on that it was Claudio Reyna and his wife Danielle that leaked this information to the governing body of United States men's soccer because they didn't feel Berhalter had treated their son Gio fairly.
There you go.
The lesson to be learned to me from both of these situations is you better be careful when you start accusing other people of doing things and trying to ruin their lives, even if they did what you accuse them of or what you leaked to the press. This is the day and age we live in. I get it. You should not throw stones at glass houses because let's start digging up info on all these reporters. TMZ, Fox News, CNN. Let's start looking into your backgrounds.
How about Gio's family?
Yeah, how about Claudio and Danielle? Are they perfect
Squeaky
in every
clean?
way?
Bet not. Remember this, kids. Karma, bitch be thy name.
And on that note, we have to talk a little bit more about soccer as we move to our moments of silence.
The all-time great, 3-time World Cup winner, international sports icon Pele passed away after a bout dealing with cancer.
Yeah, we kind of knew this was coming. He was in hospice.
Still hate to see it. There's a guy who did it right, who stood up for his beliefs. He put his money where his mouth was and did everything he could to be a good human being.
Yeah, and even though Dave and I rip on soccer all the time, we're not naive. We know that Pele is one of the most iconic international athletes of all time. You can't deny it. It's
No.
like Muhammad Ali in boxing. He transcended boundaries. It wasn't just the greatest American athlete, the greatest European athlete. Pele, like Muhammad Ali, was one of the greatest global athletes of all time.
Yep. And made the transition into film, starring with Michael Caine and Sylvester Stallone in Victory, where the Allied prisoners of war took on the Nazi soccer team. Great feel-good war movie, kids. I highly recommend it.
Save it for the weekend edition, Dave.
That's a teaser.
One other moment of silence, tragic. Whereas Pele had lived a full life. BYU offensive lineman, I'm hoping I pronounce his name correctly, Sione Vicoso, working on a construction site off-season in Hawaii, his native land, his homeland. A retaining wall fell on him and a bunch of other people. They believe he was 22 years old.
Ouch.
Thoughts and prayers to the BYU family.
Yep. Thoughts and prayers to the family and friends of Uche Nwaneri, who played for the Jacksonville Jaguars and and for the Purdue Boilermakers offensive guard. Died of a heart attack in his wife's home in West Lafayette when he was there over the weekend. Became a podcaster talking about Jaguars and the NFL.
And again, I don't want to hear the idiots, the right-wing nutjob idiots talking about all these younger players, these younger athletes, these younger people dying. It's got to be the vaccine. Shut up.
It's not. So.
All right.
Ken Block, World Rally Car Champion, extreme racer, founder of DC Shoes for skateboarding, passed away. Big loss there for what he had done for extreme sports and rally car racing.
All right, we promised we would keep this going before we get to the Red Foreman dumbasses of the week. The Clint Eastwood badasses of the week. I've got two. Number one, Mr. Pete Rose. Pete Rose.
Vindication, baby.
Despite the fact that he's been banned for life from MLB, which is wrong, which is stupid. He should be in the Hall of Fame. Mr. Pete Rose agreed to place the first legal sports bet in the state of Ohio on January the 1st as a big F you to Major League Baseball.
Good for you, Charlie Hustle. Absolutely love it.
And then for me personally, talking about the Buccaneers and their big win against the Panthers, anybody who watched the end of that game knows that their punter, Jake Camarda, saved that game. Bad snap. He picked it up, ran off almost to the sidelines, and somehow got the kick off. Went down to the 1 yard line, I believe. Now, there was a penalty for a legal man downfield on the Buccaneers. But because he was able to get that kick off, the Panthers had to say, we'll take the penalty, re-kick, instead of declining the penalty and taking the ball on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
But if he had not been able to get that kick off,
it would
the
have been
Panthers
a disaster.
would have gotten the ball roughly at midfield.
Yep.
With enough time to come back and score a touchdown to beat the Buccaneers. So
there you
again,
go.
look at it online, kids. Awesome play by my badass of the week, Jake Camarda.
Yep. My Clint Eastwood badass of the week is all the first responders and the medical personnel on the Monday night who were there in Cincinnati for Bill's safety, Hamlin, what they did to resuscitate him, to get him to the hospital and give him a fighting chance.
Yeah, and there was part of me that actually wanted to put in all the people, as we mentioned in the first segment, that donated to his charity, Chasing M's Toy Drive. There you go. It's still open, I'm sure, out there. GoFundMe.
The Bills players, the Bengals players, both coaches for standing up to the NFL and saying, no, we're going to the locker room. We're not obeying your little 5-minute rule.
Yeah, and there's still debate about whether that really happened. There's some people that say that never came down, there was no edict initially that said you got 5 minutes to warm up. But
at least there was the solidarity among all the players.
Yeah. Yeah. And for about an hour or so, everybody handled it. ESPN, everybody handled the situation perfectly.
Until you got to Scott Van Pelt.
And then everything after that, and I'm sure all the big news networks, which we didn't watch, which I wasn't going to watch, jumped in. And then, of course, the 24-hour news cycle, the TMZ crap kicked in.
Yeah.
And just made it, again, another miserable situation where you should have just given the family peace and quiet. Give the Bills time to mourn. Again, I know he's not dead, but give them time to contemplate, to think. But again, everybody's got to talk about it. We got 5 hours of analysis.
Damn Ted Turner to hell for a 24-hour news cycle. But it also is shown in Die Hard when the dumbass reporter has to take his team to the home of the hero and screw everything up. The invasive nature of the damn news is horrible.
And I think what Dave is basically also saying is that while we like to think, well, we don't like it, but we think of this as a recent phenomenon, this has been around for 30, 40 years. The increasing pressure, the tabloidism, the paparazzi nature of our press.
Gotta be first, regardless if you're right.
And honestly, this is going to sound awful, and I don't care. If you are a parent and you let your child go into journalism, shame on you. Shame on you.
There is no journalistic integrity anymore.
You couldn't have found something more productive to steer them into. God help me, I would have preferred you put them in acting than journalism. Because right now, in this day and age, journalism is the lowest common denominator when it comes to a career.
All right. And that begins the pivot.
But the pivot will have to wait for segment 4. Because we ran
out of time.
We have got enough going on here for Dumbasses of the Week. Of course, that 70s show coming up in a few weeks on Netflix.
That 90s show.
But of course, our Red Foreman tribute based in that 70s show.
That's right.
We're going to play Dumbass or Not.
To wrap this baby up. Stay tuned.
About another 10 minutes, and we will be done, kids. We'll be right back.
Yes. Listen, you will, to Sports Frenzy 2.0, you must. Much to learn from the maestro and conquistador there is for entertainment every Saturday. On Spotify, Anchor, Google, Apple, and everywhere are they found.
All right, kids, aren't you lucky? You get a bonus 4th segment for what could be the last time in quite a while now that football season is starting to wind down.
Yep. You have the greatest game show nobody knows about except you, intelligent listeners.
First episode of 2023, taping here January the 4th. this will hit the morning of the 5th. And yes, it is time for the Red Foreman Dumbasses of the Week. And we have enough where, as Dave alluded to, we're going to play the greatest game show on the planet, dumbass or not. I have 6 dumbasses. I will put them out there for not only you, but Dave to judge.
Let us begin.
Let's start off with North Carolina State radio broadcaster Gary Hahn, who was suspended while on the radio, obviously, discussing the NC State bowl game, happened to give an update on another game, the Sun Bowl, which happens to be played in El Paso, Texas. And of course, Gary Hahn couldn't help himself and said, here's the score of the Sun Bowl among all those illegal aliens down in El Paso. As much as you want to say secretly, giggling and laughing, tee-heeing, that's cool, I get it. You don't say it.
Dude, you are guest announcing on a national broadcast. That is not the time or place to do something that stupid. You have sunk your career. A complete dumbass move.
And again, there is a little part of me that was like kind of saying, ha ha ha.
ha.
But again, for him and his career,
and in this day
dumbass.
and age, you cannot do that on a national broadcast.
No. Now, Dave and I, of course, if we could play music right now, we'd put on Genesis. It's no fun being an illegal alien. On a side note, I don't know if they even show that video anymore because so many people now, all the snowflakes now, are so upset with that video. With Phil Collins with the mustache. And
it's funny.
That's why I'm saying there's a little nuance here. It's
there
not
is.
A straight 100% dumbass. Now, this is getting a little statistical as we move on to the second potential dumbass of the week. The G League in the NBA. Now, they have been used as a testing ground for a lot of
new
crazy ideas.
Sorry.
Again, I think back to Donovan Mitchell. Poor Donovan Mitchell puts up 71 points, and he's got to do a P test the next day. But the G League has, it's like the XFL for the NFL or the USFL. Well, they'll try out the crazy rule changes that they might want to.
A little different. The introduction, the dipping the toe in the water.
Okay, this is going too far, though. The G League is now experimenting with what they call a target score. Because they don't like the way the NBA games are going right now with the high scores where games are like 150, 140.
With a lack of defense.
So now the G League is putting in a target number. Like when you get to the fourth quarter or overtime. First team to score this point total wins the game. Not a clock thing. It's all about they put a number out there and they say the first team to reach this number. This
point differential, or just
let's say there's a team that's winning 125 to 110, right? They say the first team to hit 140 wins the game. So if the other team
can get on a roll,
right, and they can get there first, but they're looking at it as a way to cut down on the time of the games. I just don't know if I like this.
I don't like it. How about we just teach these kids how to play some frickin' defense?
Yeah, the target score thing that bothers me.
No.
That really bothers me.
This is like playing Little League Baseball with the frickin' 10-run rule.
Right. Or what, basketball? What is it, 21? You play to 21?
Why not?
But
you're making it like
I
volleyball.
I don't like it. Yeah. It's just...
No.
I don't know if you want to call it a dumbass. I just don't like it.
I don't know if I would go dumbass. It's just, yeah, I would. It's a dumbass idea.
All right. We all know there are problems with deliveries, holiday season, mail, Amazon, things get screwed up. And even if somebody has the same name as somebody who is supposed to get an invitation to the Masters, wouldn't you think that Augusta National would have the right address in their file?
You would think.
Yet somehow Augusta National sent a Masters invitation to the wrong Scott Stallings. The correct...
Would you not check with the PGA membership directory? There's a myriad of cross-checks that you can do to avoid going to Google.
So Scott Stallings, obviously not a huge name in golf, but he's previously qualified for the Masters, but it's been a while. But this year he did qualify again. So his packet from Augusta National got sent out. Here's where it gets a little eerie. Sent to another Scott Stallings, who lives in the same geographic region, who is an amateur golfer, and who also happens to have a wife with the same name as the invitee. Both Scott Stallings are married to Jennifers.
Again, why are you not looking up on the official PGA roster?
Yeah, I don't care if they're married to the same woman. I don't care if they, you've got to be able to send the invite to the right address.
No kidding. Good Lord.
Now, of course, the wrong Scott Stallings was very gracious, reached out on social media to the right Scott Stallings.
Dude, I think I got your packet by mistake.
Yeah. I got your package. They put it in the wrong box. Hey, wait, that's my Jennifer, not your Jennifer. No. But come on.
Come on.
Something like this, they've got to get it right.
An Augusta National, shame on you. That you are the pinnacle of professional golf. Get that dumbass out of your office.
All right, so we're going to go back to the media here because, of course, we've been talking on and off about the sports media throughout Sports Frenzy here tonight. So let's go back to the Damar Hamlin situation. And again, Dave and I have talked about the fact that this is the type of thing where it would be nice if people would just leave the Bills, the family alone, let them handle this in quiet silence in their own way.
Without speculation
but again,
on every frickin' news network.
Yeah, but again, every sports network, every news network has been 24/7 on this. Guy that I know, I've listened to him a little bit on sports radio over the past decade or so, and I don't like him, and I think he's a jackass. Not trying to bias you on your dumbass selection, Dave, but Bart Scott, former professional football player,
Who?
actually came out. He's on ESPN now, formerly on WFAN out of New York.
Oh, God.
Implies that T. Higgins, the receiver was to blame
Oh, come on!
for this Damar Hamlin tragedy.
That is
saying that offensive players get away with too much when it comes to leading with their shoulders or their heads, creating this type of potential situation where they could do catastrophic damage to the defensive player.
While that does happen from time to time, offensive players are known to lower their heads to initiate contact as well. That is not what frickin' happened in this case. That is one of the biggest dumbass ideas I've heard floated out there. Absolute stupidity. This guy needs to be removed out of broadcasting for bringing up something that damn stupid.
Oh, no, but he's a former player, so he knows so much about anything and everything involving football. No,
Crap. Bart
Scott has been floating around for a decade at least among radio stations and media outlets. Again, he's a former player. I believe
he played 1 year?
He played in New York.
For 1 year?
No, he played multiple years. But by all accounts, a mediocre player at best. But because he can put two coherent sentences together, he gets a job in media because he's a former player. Just like Tony Romo, just like all these other idiots. And we got another one coming up. Well, Aqib Talib finally, because he couldn't keep his business off mic and off camera together, thank God for our ears and our brains, was taken off. If they had let him continue as a commentator, I literally would have had to say Tony Romo was not the worst color commentator.
Yeah. Get this guy off the air. That is absolute stupidity and crap.
Bart, like I said, I've listened to Bart Scott multiple times, multiple shows, and he's an idiot. He's a jackass. And there are a lot of people in the New York media that stick up for him because he used to play New York football.
It doesn't matter.
He's an idiot. He's always been an idiot. Speaking of which, let's stick with this theme. One of my least favorite Nepo babies. One of my favorite new terms. Nepo baby, kids. If you don't know what that is called a nepotism baby. That is somebody who got a job in acting or television or sports commentary because their parents are famous. This idiot in the past has admitted he takes Fridays off from his normal show with Mike Florio on Peacock, formerly on NBC Sports Network, because all he wants to do is relax on Fridays and smoke a bowl.
Must be nice.
And he got his job because his father is a famous New York football player, one Phil Simms. Yes, I'm talking about Spleen Boy, Chris Simms,
who
went on a rant. And I can't believe NBC keeps him under contract. He was on a podcast here within the last couple days. Chris Simms got ripped apart for talking about how he didn't think Jalen Hurts was worthy of MVP consideration when compared to Patrick Mahomes. So, somebody brought somebody on ESPN on their Instagram, whoever runs their Sports Center Instagram page, pointed out after the Eagles lost this past weekend with Gardner Minshew, said, I wonder how Chris Simms feels now that we see that the Eagles need Jalen Hurts, the MVP, to actually play well. So on this podcast, Chris Simms, of course, must not have had his morning bowl, not of Cheerios, of course, but Sensimilla. Went into an F-bomb tirade about ESPN. Oh, fucking ESPN must not have enough content because all they fucking do is point out what they think is a flaw in my logic about not liking Jalen Hurts more than Chris or Patrick Mahomes. So fuck ESPN and fuck whoever runs their fucking Instagram page. That's the class act you want, NBC.
Really?
on Peacock and on your Sunday night broadcast.
Oh
This
my God.
podhead douchebag. Yes, and we all know. We're doing it right now. We have a podcast and we curse and swear.
But
We're not getting paid thousands and tens of thousands of dollars
a week.
because our daddy was famous. So we got a job because our daddy was famous. So now we think we can do whatever we fucking want. Spleen Boy, you used to play for my team, the Buccaneers, and you sucked ass. And you still suck ass as a commentator.
You are a dumbass.
Why don't you just smoke all the pot you want and leave us alone? Sorry.
That's fine.
Obviously, I'm biased on this one. I can't stand Chris Sims.
Chris Sims is useless as a commentator. He brings nothing.
And if you're going to be so thin-skinned and so prickly and so snowflake-ish, when somebody calls you out, when you make a bad call, or at least a questionable call when it comes to MVP, you got to be able to take it. And if you can't take it, you pussy, retire right now.
Get the hell off the air.
I can't stand Chris Sims. I can't stand Nepo babies like him.
He's an entitled little prick.
All right, finally, to get away from the whole media thing, the final dumbass, potential dumbass of the week. You're going to love this. The name itself. We're going to talk about the NCAA Transformation Committee.
Oh, God.
Now, these are only recommendations. They are not going to go into practice or be written down as quote-unquote law, but the NCAA Transformation Committee has recommended that 25% of schools eligible in any sport should be qualified for postseason play. Which means that in the NCAA basketball tournament, both male and female, that would expand the field to 90 teams.
They are stupid and idiotic.
Not only that, but the Transformation Committee recommends that whether or not a student athlete completes their degree program within 4, 5, 6 years, they should be given a 10-year window for fully paid education, degree completion funds.
What retarded snowflakes are on this committee?
Yeah, so if you decide you want...
Yes, I said the R word. Suck it.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. That's another thing. Cancel culture. Cancel my ass. Because I'm with Dave. It's retarded.
How retarded are these morons?
We are getting to a point.
Jeez.
And again, I want to bring this all back to the Damar Hamlin thing. Because this is something that really upset me about this. Number one, we know it was devastating for people to see this on TV. And we all love the NFL. But everybody dies. My best friend Dave is going to die. I'm going to die.
Everybody dies.
And it's going to devastate me when he dies.
It'll devastate me when he goes.
Yeah, I don't believe that. But that anyway. It'll devastate my snowflake daughter. But here's where we got to get serious about this. Let's stop with the 1%. And now I am putting the NFL players, the NCAA athletes in this 1%. Let's stop acting like the 1%. The celebrities, the TV talk show hosts are so goddamn important that when they have health issues, when they, God forbid, die, it's looked at as a national tragedy when hardworking people out there who do the nasty, dirty work, give you your Big Mac, dig the ditches out there, when they drop dead, we don't even notice. We don't even give two shits. And I think it's wrong. I've always thought it's wrong. Fuck celebrities. Fuck the NFL. Because I'm sorry, we all care about Damar Hamlin. We all do. But a lot of this sanctimonious, we're all a family. We're all so important. We're the modern day gladiators, as Aaron Rodgers said about the Damar Hamlin situation.
The
modern day warriors are out there serving your food, fixing your roads, helping you when you have to go to the hospital and need a procedure. I'm tired of movie actors and athletes acting like they're more important than everybody else. That's bringing this full circle why I can't stand the coverage of what happened with poor Damar Hamilton. Because you're acting like, somebody that is impacted all of our lives is in critical condition. I'm sorry, Damar Hamlin doesn't impact my life.
That's why we are very selective with who we do moments of silence for.
The people close to you out there in podcast land, the people close to me, the people close to Dave, everybody has a circle that if somebody were to pass away or undergo a devastating cardiac incident like Damar Hamlin, yes, we understand what everybody was feeling. But for all the talking heads on ESPN and Fox News and CNN and TMZ to get out there and preach to us about, oh my God, this is such a national tragedy.
It's not a national
People
tragedy.
die every second of every minute of every day, and they mean something to somebody. So let's dial it down a little bit.
It's a slow news week.
Sorry, I had to get that out. I've been feeling like that since, as you mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we saw the coverage from ESPN and they did an exemplary job for the first hour. But once they went to Scott Van Pelt,
then it went downhill.
Then it became maudlin and it became part of that 24-hour news cycle.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, I don't need to see Scott Van Pelt welling up with tears. That's fake. That's bullshit. And I don't want anybody to tell me otherwise. Because Scott Van Pelt is going to cry over a football player that he probably has never met before, then he has got some level of empathy that I don't think any human being has ever experienced before. Let's just get beyond this, pray for the kid, let the Bills and the family have their space, and hope he gets through this and can live a normal life. That's it. Over, done. No talk about vaccines. No talk of magnetic helmets I heard today. People talking about, let's put magnets in the helmets.
Oh my God.
To repel the players before they have any kind of like head-to-head contact. I mean, this is that idiocy.
Magnetic fields interfere with all brainwave capacity, right? Idiots.
All right, so how'd I do? Out of the 6, did I get 6? Did I get 5? How many did I get?
6 for 6. That's what we have for this week, kids.
But do not forget to check out the weekend edition, of course, as always.
Yep.
Coming up this Saturday
Top
morning.
Top 5 songs
of 2022. Looking forward to this. Because Dave and I have
the albums that we reviewed.
Dave and I have not consulted, so this will be a surprise for not only you out there in podcast land, but for the Conquistador and I as well. Episode 5 of Doom Patrol, Season 4.
Black Adam.
I will have a review of White Lotus, Season 1.
Ghost, the BBC version.
And Dave has got a book review.
Yep. So lots of stuff coming your way, kids.
All right. I know this has been a long episode.
It's a hell of a lot longer than I expected.
But, as always...
But when he gets on a soapbox, look out, kids.
It's quality content! Quality content! I was going to
say, it's worthwhile.
All right, we love you, kids. We'll check you out for sports next Thursday morning. But, don't forget, again, the weekend edition coming up this Saturday morning. Take care. Dave and I will talk to you soon. Later.
Bye-bye.